I was spending a rare snow day with my family when we decided to build a snowman in the front yard. We gave it the usual decorations, a scarf, buttons, and an old hat. By the time we finished, it was dusk, and the snowman's smile, crooked from the twigs we used, seemed oddly menacing. It was just my imagination, I told myself. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, though every time I looked outside, the snowman was right where we left it. The next morning, the snowman wasn't where we had built it. Somehow it was closer to the house, facing directly at the front door. I laughed it off, thinking it was a prank, but my kids swore they didn't move it. Over the next few nights, the snowman seemed to inch closer and closer to the house, its crooked smile looking wider every time. My partner thought it was the wind, but there wasn't a single sign of melted snow anywhere in the yard. I woke up one morning to find the snowman right outside the front door. Its twig arms were raised as if it were reaching for the doorbell. The sight made my stomach drop. I opened the door to check, but there was nothing unusual, except for the fact that its smile seemed even wider. I was starting to feel like I was losing my mind, but my kids were scared now too. That night, I locked all the doors and shut every curtain, but I could still feel its presence outside. The following morning, the snowman was gone. I thought it was finally over, but when I walked into the living room, I froze. There it was, standing in the corner, its crooked smile staring right at me. Snow was pooling around its base, and the air in the room felt freezing. My heart pounded as I backed away, only to hear the crunch of snow behind me. I turned around, but no one was there. When I looked back at the snowman, it was closer, its arms reaching out. That was the last thing I remembered before everything went black. I was living alone in a small apartment when I first noticed him. It was late December, and I spotted the mall Santa standing under a flickering street lamp outside my window. At first, I thought he was waiting for someone, but he didn't move, not even a little. Hours later, when I checked again, he was still there, staring directly at my window. I closed my blinds, convincing myself it was just someone being weird. The next day I saw him again, this time at the grocery store. He wasn't standing near anyone or doing anything Santa-like, just standing by the frozen foods aisle, looking in my direction. When I walked toward him, he turned the corner, and by the time I got there, he was gone. It started to feel like I was imagining things, but deep down, I knew better. Over the next few nights, the situation got worse. I started hearing strange noises at night, heavy boots on the roof, the faint jingling of bells, and a deep, slow tapping on the walls. One night, I found footprints in the snow leading to my window, but none leading away. I called my landlord, but he brushed it off, saying it was probably just kids playing around. Things came to a head when I woke up one night to the sound of heavy breathing outside my bedroom door. I froze in bed, clutching my phone. But when I finally gathered the courage to check, no one was there. I started sleeping with the lights on, but the feeling of being watched never went away. Desperate for answers, I started researching the mall Santa. It wasn't easy, but I found an old news article about a man who used to play Santa at the local mall. He went missing during a snowstorm years ago. Witnesses claimed he'd been acting strange before he disappeared, muttering about keeping watch and finding the chosen. On Christmas Eve, I found a box on my doorstep with no sender. Inside was an old photo of me as a child, sitting on Santa's lap. My blood ran cold as I recognized the face. It was him. On the back of the photo, scrawled in red ink, were the words, "I've always been watching." That night, I heard the noises again, boots on the roof, bells jingling, and something scratching at my window. But this time, it didn't stop. I grabbed a kitchen knife and crept toward the sound, only to find the Santa standing in the corner of my living room. He didn't move, didn't speak. His head was tilted at an unnatural angle, and his hollow eyes locked onto mine. I backed away, but when I blinked, he was gone. I thought it was over until I saw my reflection in the window. He was standing right behind me, grinning. The last thing I remember was a cold hand on my shoulder and the sound of bells echoing in my ears.